Hello all, continuing from where we left off, in this video we'll show the modifications which we have done to our previous function. So before this I would like to delete the outputs which we have um, got in the previous version. Coming back to the code, so in this first modification we have included the column index which will help user to generate box plot and histogram of those variables only for which he will pass the indices. So in this loop, this loop will iterate to those columns only which the user has passed through a list in this when calling this function. So if I run this function and I'll give the file name as emptycars.csv, and I'd like to generate the columns only for 1, 3 and 5 indices. So the 1, 3, so it has generated the graphs for variable CYL, HP and weight. We can confirm over here. See, this one has generated box plot and histogram for all these three variables. So I'll delete these three outputs before going to the next version. So in the next modification, we have handled the situation in which the user has not provided any list of indices. In this case, the box plot and histogram will be generated for all the numerical variables in the dataset. So this situation is handled in this particular lines of code, in which if the column index is none, so it will generate a range from 0 till all the columns which are present in the data frame. So if I run this and give the file name as emptycars.csv, and I do not give pass any list of indices and just run it, so it will generate the graphs for all the numerical variables present in the data frame. So here we can see the output, box plot and the histogram of all the numerical variables present in the data frame are plotted over here. So I'll delete it again and we'll go to the next version. Till now we have been handling numeric data types only. So in this modification we have generated bar charts for the categorical variables. So the if your variable is numeric, so it's checked over here. So if it's a numeric, it will plot box plots and histogram in this section of the code. But if it's not numeric, if it's something else, it will come into this and it will be plotting a bar chart for those variables. If it's character variable, so we execute this part of the code and we have already included data frame as empty cars.cv. If I run this code, so we have added one categorical variable in our data set, which is the city variable. So if we see the output, so we can see a bar chart for all the category variables which will be there in the data frame, along with the other box plot and histograms for the numerical variable. I'll delete again all these codes, sorry, the outputs. And okay, so we move to the next modification which we have done. Initially the plots were generated and were getting saved in the working directory only. So in this modification we have given the user an option to specify the directory in which he wants to save the plot. So if the directory is none, then it will store the address of it will get the current working directory and will store its value in the directory variable, and the plots will be saved in the current working directory only. But if the user has specified the directory, so all those plots will be saved in that directory only. So if we execute this part of the code and read the data set and run this test case in which the directory has been specified, where the output will be stored in this final output folder, so we'll execute this and the plots have been generated, and we'll see whether the plots have come in this output. So this is the output folder and we can see all the plots have been generated. for the variables present in the data frame. So in this we can specify the directory of our own choice and save the plots according to our choice. So we'll delete all this and move to the next version. So in this next modification, so we have handled the errors in the column index in which the user enters an invalid column index. For example, if he is entering 14 as the column index, and if the number of columns are only 10, so it's invalid. For 14 is an invalid column index. So this will be handled over in this part of the code. It will be in this try and except block. This thing will be handled over there, that the column present is not for the given index, and it will create the directory if the path which is provided by the user doesn't exist. So in this piece of code, if the directory is none, then it will give the current working directory. But if the directory is, if the user has provided a directory but it doesn't exist, so it will create a path for this directory. For example, I'll run this piece of code and I'll read this data set. Now in this output folder is already there, so I'll just go and delete this folder, output folder, delete, and now I'll run this test case. Now the graphs have been plotted for all these variables, and if we go back, we see that this directory has been created by the computer and all the plots have been stored in this directory. So I'll go ahead and delete all these plots. Move on to the next modification which we have done. So the additional modification which we have done is given a one more parameter of scatter matrix. So if a user wants to have the scatter matrix, so of all the variables present in the data frame, so the user has the option. If we write scatter matrix equals to true, so the scatter matrix will be generated and saved in the same directory as all these box plots and histogram and bar charts are being saved. So if the scatter matrix is true, so this piece of code will help in generating a scatter plot of all these and will save in the same directory. Execute this part of the code and then I'll read the dataset, and I'll use this. Okay, the output folder is already there. Yes, it's already there. So I'll just give the scatter matrix variable as true and I'll run this test case. Okay, no columns. Yeah, so we can see that this has already handled this no column index error also. Since 24 is not there, so it has said that the column is not present in the data set, and the plotted graphs for the variables and other variables it has plotted, and as we see the graphs will be plotted, and we also have a scatter plot of all the variables present in the dataset since we have given scatter matrix as true. So now this is the final version of our code, and we'll convert this into a package so that it's easy for everyone, for us to use. We don't have to call the function and again we just call the package and do our stuff in. So next video we'll convert it into a package. Thank you.